You know that feeling, right? That little catch in your breath. That tightness right between your shoulder blades. It's the feeling you get when you hear a story that doesn't just scare you in the moment. It lingers. It sticks with you like a strange scent or a haunting melody. It makes you stare into the darkness of your own hallway a second too long. It keeps you awake, listening to the sounds your house makes in the dead of night, wondering if it's all just in your head. I've been hunting for stories like that for years, and I found four that I'm going to share with you right now that seriously freaked me out. These aren't your basic ghost stories. These are stories about violation, about the rules of reality breaking down, and about a subtle, creeping fear that seeps into your normal everyday life. So get comfortable, or maybe don't. 4 disturbing horror stories that linger. Story 1. The Midnight Radio. Let's start with Leo. Leo was a late-night radio host. His show, The Midnight Radio, aired from midnight to 4 in the morning, catering to long-haul truckers, night shift workers, and insomniacs like you and me. The station was in this old building, a concrete bunker on the edge of town. At night, it was so empty you could hear the air conditioning groan and the building itself settle and crack. One night, the studio's request line lit up. Leo picked up, expecting a song, but it was a woman's voice. Her tone was soft, weary, and distant. She didn't request a song. She whispered, "There's a man standing in the corner of my room. He's just standing there." Leo, thinking it was a prank, said politely, "Ma'am, I'm afraid you have the wrong number. This is a request line," and he hung up. But she called back the next night, and the night after. Each time her voice grew a little more frantic. She stopped calling him sir, she used his name. "Leo," she'd sigh, "he's closer to the bed now. I can hear his breathing, it's wheezy and wet. He smells like damp earth and rot." Leo started to feel a genuine dread, a cold, heavy knot in his stomach. He tried to trace the call, but the number always came up unavailable. He even offered to call the police for her, but she just said, "They can't help. He's not regular." Then came the worst night. She called. Her voice was a trembling, broken whisper, choked with sobs. "Leo," she cried. "He's touching the blanket. His hand is on my foot. It's so cold. It's like ice." Leo could hear a faint rustling sound, like fabric being dragged over the phone. His heart was hammering. He stammered, "Ma'am, are you still there?" He heard a sharp, quick intake of breath, pure terror. And then, silence. Just the hollow sound of an open line. Leo was frozen. He cut to a long commercial break. His hands shook as he pressed the buttons. The studio was eerily quiet. He decided to play a long music set. No more taking calls. As the final song was fading out, he looked up through the thick, soundproof glass into the production booth next door. That room was pitch black, only a sliver of dim hallway light cutting through the open door. And he saw it. A tall, slender shadow, just an outline, a darkness deeper than the surrounding blackness, standing perfectly still, facing away from him. Leo froze. The blood in his veins turned to ice. The song ended, and a deafening silence fell. And then the phone on his desk rang. A shrill, piercing sound that tore through the quiet. He stared at it, his mouth dry. It rang a second time, a third. With a will he didn't know he possessed, he reached out, picked up the receiver, and brought it to his ear. And he heard it. The woman's voice, but now it wasn't scared. It was low and even, almost satisfied. She whispered, "Leo, he's in the room with you now, isn't he?" And through the glass, the shadow slowly, so slowly, began to turn its head. Story 2. The Man in the Field. Imagine a small town where cornfields stretch out to meet the horizon. In this town, a little boy named Eli, about 7 years old, told his parents he saw a man in the field behind their house. A tall, thin man in an old black suit, and he just stood there, staring at the house. At first, his parents thought it was a scarecrow. They went to look. They saw nothing but the corn stalks swaying in the wind. They told Eli, "Honey, it's just your imagination. There's no one there." But Eli insisted. "Not a scarecrow," he said, his eyes wide. "He moves. Every day he gets a little closer." And he was right. The next day, the man was nearer to the fence. Then he was right on the other side of the fence. Eli started having nightmares. He didn't want to go outside to play. His fear became a presence in the house itself. His parents, now truly concerned, walked out into the field, inspecting the ground. There were no footprints, no sign that anyone had been standing there, just flat, packed earth and dry corn husks. Then one morning, Eli came down for breakfast. His face was pale, ghostly. He was trembling as he took his mother's hand and said, his voice thick with tears, "Mom, the man is at the window. He's looking at me." His mother's heart seized. She rushed to the kitchen window, which looked out on the backyard. She stared at the neatly mown lawn, the swing set, the fence. Nothing, not a soul. She turned back, a wave of relief washing over her, and knelt to hug her son. "Eli, sweetie," she said, her voice gentle, "there's no one at the window. I promise. It was just a bad dream." Eli pulled away, his eyes filled with a terror no child should ever know. He looked right into his mother's eyes, and with a tone of sheer, horrifying certainty that chilled her to the bone, he said, "I know, Mom. I didn't say he was outside." Story 3. The copycat, now for a different kind of fear. A fear that invades your very home, your very identity. This is the story of Sarah. Sarah lived alone in a quiet apartment. It started subtly. She was washing a dish, and a cup clinked lightly against the ceramic sink. A second later, from the living room, an identical clink echoed back. She wrote it off as her imagination. But then it got clearer. She cleared her throat. A second later, a perfect copy of her throat clearing came from the hallway. She tested it, saying out loud, "Is someone there?" And a voice, identical to her own, but with a metallic, cold undertone, repeated, "Is someone there?" She was terrified. She stopped talking altogether. She tried to be utterly silent. But the thing, the copycat, didn't need her to speak anymore. It started speaking for her. She'd be thinking about how she needed to do laundry, and from the bathroom, the voice would say, "We're out of detergent." She'd feel hungry, and from the kitchen a whisper would come, "There are eggs in the fridge." Sarah was completely breaking down. She called the police, but when they arrived, the thing would go silent. They found nothing. They thought she was stressed. One night, she was sitting huddled on her bed, her elbows on her knees, her face in her hands. Silent tears were streaming down her face. She was trying to cry without making a sound. And then she heard it. The voice. It was right outside her bedroom door now. It wasn't mimicking anymore. It was using her voice, but it was talking to her. It said in a perfect imitation of her own choked, weary tone, "Let me in. I'm so lonely. I just want to be friends." Sarah sat perfectly still, not even daring to breathe. And then she heard the sound she feared most. A soft click, then a slow, deliberate turn. The lock on her bedroom door was slowly, gradually being turned. Story 4. The Whistling. Finally, this is perhaps the simplest story, and for me, the most deeply disturbing. It has no clear ghosts, no shadows, just a tune. It's about a man named Mark, who moved into an old country house for some peace and quiet. The first night, as he was drifting off to sleep, he heard it, a whistling sound. It wasn't loud. It was soft, reedy, and completely unfamiliar. A strange, off-kilter melody with no clear rhythm, just repeating over and over. It seemed to be coming from outside his bedroom window. He got up, peering out into the darkness. Nothing. The whistling stopped. It happened the next night, and the night after. Always that same, unsettling tune. It would start at midnight and go on for hours, piercing his sleep, waking him with a racing heart. He was exhausted. He searched the attic and the basement, checked every crawl space. Nothing. Finally, he asked his elderly neighbor, an old man who had lived there his whole life. "The whistling?" the old man said, nodding with a sad look. Yeah, we all hear it. You're not the first. You'll get used to it. And Mark tried. Oh, he tried. But months went by and the whistling, night after night, was like sonic torture. It was eating away at his mind. He became irritable, exhausted, constantly on edge. And then he realized something horrible. He had started to hum the tune under his breath while he was working. It would play in his head while he was cooking. It had wormed its way into his subconscious. One morning he was shaving in the bathroom mirror. His mind was foggy with exhaustion, and almost without thinking his lips pursed and he began to whistle. It was the tune, that eerie, discordant melody. He stopped immediately, his eyes wide as he looked at his own reflection in the mirror. His face was pale, with dark circles under his eyes. And in that moment, a horrifying truth crashed down on him, making his knees go weak, forcing him to grip the sink for support. Mark couldn't whistle. He had never, in his 35 years of life, been able to produce a single musical note with his lips. So then, what had been whistling that tune in his house every night? And more importantly, what, or who, had just whistled it through his lips? And with a low, slow, haunting tone. 4 stories. 4 different ways our reality can be torn open. I've told them to you. And now perhaps they'll haunt you too. Maybe the next time you hear a strange noise in the night, or you catch your own eye in the mirror a moment too long, you'll remember, and you'll wonder if you're really alone after all.